This is the Radster Trail from Rad Power Bikes. It's the latest fat tire e-bike from a brand that's been in the e-bike business for over 17 years now. It's got some really cool new battery tech and an all-new 750 watt motor with 100 Newton meters of torque. So, what does over 17 years of experience and a fresh new look bring to the table for the Radster Trail? Take a ride with me and let's find out. Hey there friends, and welcome back to Electric Bike Report. I'm Mike, and before we get started, look, we get it, e-bike prices are what they are, and buying one is a big decision. So if you can appreciate these reviews and the consistent testing we do on our e-bikes to share this important data with you, go ahead and like this video to tell the YouTube overlords that people are enjoying our content so more people just like you can get the information before their next big e-bike purchase. So with that out of the way, let's jump into what makes the Radster Trail stand out. So one of my favorite things to do when we get a new bike in for testing is to run online and check out all the specs. Is it fast? What kind of motor does it have? Does it look cool? You know, the important stuff. I was pumped to see that not only did the Radster look cool, but their latest motor release in this bike was what they call Rad tuned with a torque sensor, which is already awesome, but also with a beefy 100 Newton meters of torque. That's a lot of muscle on this bike and can only add to its overall performance. And can we all just agree, we love torquey e-bikes. I mean, they just make everything more fun when you're riding a bike. So, how did it perform in our hill test? We'll get to that in just a few minutes. And from my rides this week on the Radster, I can personally say it did not disappoint. So stay tuned to see those numbers in the speed, range, and hill test. And that would take me to my next point. It just looks good. Now, like you, we can all agree not all e-bikes are created equal when it comes to the cool factor, right? Some are just plain odd looking. But when we look at the Radster Trail here, it just looks good. The new colors, the tan sidewalls on the Kendra 27.5 off-road tires, heck, even all the commuter perks like the rear rack with bag bars, fenders, a Suntour SR suspension fork, and of course, turn signals. And frankly, I wish more bikes would give turn signals like the Rad did here. It's just one of those really practical commuting perks for those of you who, like me, commute in traffic to work. And finally, a huge upgrade in the safety department. Check this out. Well, we should start by applauding the folks at Rad Power for even having a bike battery that's UL 2271 certified, because not all manufacturers do. But Rad took it a step further in a big way with their latest battery design. On this new 15 amp hour, 720 watt hour battery, Rad Power Bikes now has added what they coined as Safe Shield Advanced Battery Technology. And this Safe Shield tech is a big step even further into e-bike battery fire protection measures. So, what's that really mean? Well, in simple terms, it means that each individual battery cell is encased in a fire-resistant thermal barrier that ultimately makes the battery more efficient, better protected against damage, and more importantly, de-escalate serious issues by isolating each cell so there isn't a domino effect should one of them heat up. Basically, this is the same technology that's already in electric vehicles, and it's now in the Radster Trail. It just shows you a serious safety commitment by Rad Power by going the extra mile, and we hope to see this as an industry standard in the years to come. Okay, while there's still plenty of cool new features to talk about, those were the big three that stuck out the most to us during testing. Now I'll run through the rest of the Radster Trail specs before we dive into the testing data. The Radster Trail came equipped with Tektro E350 hydraulic disc brakes with 180mm rotors. It's a fairly middle-of-the-road choice, but we found it to produce pretty consistent and solid results. Now, there is suspension on the Radster Trail in the form of a Suntour SR front hydraulic fork that has 80mm of travel. This bike comes in two sizes, a regular and a large. The folks at Rad Power say the regular size frame will fit riders ranging from 4'11 to 5'8, and the large will fit riders between 5'7 and 6'4. There are two color options. Here we have the copper red, and there's also a fur green to pick from. Up in the cockpit, you have a low-rise BMX style handlebar. On the left, you have the PAS control buttons along with a power button and display menu controls and the turn signal buttons. In the center is the full color LCD display where you can check out your speeds, odometer, pedal assist levels, and even lesser seen things like the remaining range estimation and your current wattage usage. Over on the right is the grip twist throttle and Shimano 8-speed shifter. And speaking of the cockpit display, in the menu you can easily switch between classes 1, 2, and 3, and even more specifically, you can set your class 3 to be speed capped at either 25 or 28 miles an hour, which, depending on where you live, could be a nice feature. And finally, in a time where everything's kind of hard to tell what each e-bike is these days, whether that's hybrids, EMTBs, commuters, utilities, it's all kind of hard to tell, right? They seem to do a little bit of each. If we had to classify what type of bike this is, we'd call it a fat tire e-bike, mostly due to its 3-inch tires, as we consider anything 3 inches or above to be that threshold for a fat tire e-bike. But beyond this classification, this bike can be summed up in just one word: versatility. So, with all those specs out of the way, let's jump into our testing data. Alright, to give you guys accurate data on braking, we use a consistent approach for every bike we review. We have the same rider conduct a brake test by accelerating the bike to 20 miles an hour and then applying the brakes at a predetermined line, and then we measure that distance needed for the bike to come to a complete stop. And to ensure accurate results, we repeat this test 3 times, and then we take the average stopping distance from those 3 runs. With the Radster Trail, we got a score of 21 feet 8 inches, and that's a pretty solid number for any e-bike, and it's well under our 25-foot safe stop threshold. So once again, we see the Tektro E350 hydraulic disc brakes paired to 180mm rotors, giving reliable stopping power. And with that, I personally put about 60 miles on the bike this week in real-world conditions where I had a couple unexpected stops, and true to the reputation of the Tektro E350s, the bike always stopped safely every time I asked it to, and I never had any concerns when braking. So with that, let's move on to the speed test. Alright, when it comes to our speed test, the Radster Trail really let its motor do the talking. I tested each of its 5 pedal assist settings in both Class 2 and Class 3 across all 5 levels of pedal assist on our local multi-use paths. So let's see how it did. Alright, we're out here on the Radster Trail and it's time for our speed test. So we'll go through all 5 levels of pedal assist and see what kind of assistance we get from the motor. Now this motor is a torque sensor, so it's important to note that the harder I pedal or the more feedback I give the pedals, then that tells the torque sensor to give me more juice and more power. So I try to keep it really even and consistent in my pedaling to give a good middle ground, but just know that lighter pedaling will get lower speeds and harder pedaling will get faster speeds even quicker. So with that in mind, let's jump up to level 1 and see what we get. We're currently about 8.8. And now let's go to level 1. Very subtle, slight bump in the motor. Looks like 9.5, 10 miles an hour. 10.2 for level 1. Let's go to level 2. And that one definitely has a little punch in it. We're at 11.4, 12. And let's go to level 3. And now we are definitely picking up a little bit. I see 14.5, 15. 15.2. All right, level 4. And now we're up over 17, 18, 18.2. All right, level 5. And that's gonna quickly get us up to 20 miles an hour, maybe. So 20 on the speedometer, looks like 19.6 on the phone. So there you go, Class 2 speeds met. All right, out here on the Radster Trail for the speed test, but this time in Class 3, so that can carry us up to 28 miles an hour. With no pedal assist, I'm currently at around high 8s, maybe 9 miles an hour, 8.5, 9. So let's go to level 1. And there is a slight bump up to 10 miles an hour. 9.9, 10.2. So let's go to level 2. And now we are up to 13, 13.6, 13.7. Let's go to level 3. And now we are up to 16, 17, 17.9 I saw. Let's go to level 4. And now we are cruising up over 20. $21.8, level 5. Now we are 26, 27. Woo, 28. So this is a torque sensor. I definitely had to give it more sweat equity, you know, leg muscle work on my end, but with a little help from the motor and my legs, no problem reaching the class 3 speeds of 28. All right, in class 2, I am going to do the same thing. We're in pedal assist 5. We're going to see how long it takes to go from a dead stop using throttle only to get to 20 miles an hour. On your mark, get set, go. And we are off pretty quickly, already at 12, 15, 18, 20. All right, so pretty fast. Beginning with PAS deactivated, so PAS 0, I pedaled the bike by leg power alone and tried to keep a relaxed pace. My average speed to start on leg power was about 9 miles an hour. Kicking things off in class 2, I activated PAS 1 and felt a very subtle bump in assistance that brought my speed up to 10.2 miles an hour. As I climbed through each level of pedal assistance, my speed increased at an even pace to 12.4 miles an hour in PAS 2, 15.2 in PAS 3, 18.2 in PAS 4, 19.6 in PAS 5. Next, I changed it to class 3 through the bike's LCD display menus, and yet again, PAS 1 reached 10.2 miles an hour, and as I went through the remaining levels, I saw speeds of 13.7 in PAS 2, 17.9 in PAS 3, 21.8 in PAS 4, and finally 28 miles an hour in PAS 5. The way the motor is set up in either class 2 or class 3 mode is well done. Good acceleration from point to point, and each mode feels distinct. You can genuinely get good use out of all 5 levels in either class 2 or class 3, and not a lot of bikes manage that well. It's also worth mentioning here, being that the bike has a torque sensor, in theory, your results may vary. A torque sensor measures the amount of force I am applying to the pedals, so if I pedal harder, it delivers more assistance. And on the flip side, if I give less leg power, it backs off and gives a less pedal assistance. Torque sensor and hub motor combos are becoming more common. They provide better battery efficiency and a more natural ride feel when done right. The feel element can range from loosey-goosey to pretty dialed in, and the Rad here felt like it was on the better end of that, delivering speeds when I pushed harder. It felt easy to find just the right speed. I also like the drivetrain. I found the Radster Trail's 8-speed Shimano to have a practical range of gears that worked well, from PAS 0 manual pedaling all the way up to 28 mile-an-hour speeds. The 50T chainring paired to the 11 to 34T cassette was a solid choice. Overall, these results were very solid. The Radster Trail not only boasts big torque numbers, but lives up to its Class 2 and Class 3 classifications, having no trouble reaching both class speeds with smooth and even power throughout all 5 levels. All right, now to answer one of those burning questions on everyone's mind for this Radster Trail is how far will it go on a single charge? Well, we hit the trails and have the data to share. For the range test, we run it in 2 sections. First, we charge up the Radster Trail to 100% and hit the road in the lowest PAS setting, this time PAS 1, and we see how far it will go. Then, we charge it up again in PAS 5, the highest level, ride it again until it's empty. For context, the folks over at Rad say this bike has a range of up to 65 miles. So, on the first run in PAS 1, we managed to ride the bike for a whopping 75.5 miles. To help put that in perspective, that took us over 7 hours at 7 hours 5 minutes, averaging 10.2 miles an hour, and we climbed a total elevation of 1,638 feet. And as you can guess, we were impressed. That's more than you typically see on a 720 watt-hour battery, especially on a bike with these wider tires. On the second run, with a freshly recharged battery, we covered 34.9 miles over the course of 1 hour and 53 minutes, averaging 18 miles an hour, and we gained 635 feet in elevation. Again, very solid results. Overall, the Radster's 720 watt-hour battery paired to the new Rad Power 750 watt torque sensing motor provided to be a great match, balancing very solid range performance with battery efficiency. Our hill test is run on our local multi-use path and has been officially named by the city, not us, Hellhole. And I'll let you decide why it's named that. But for some context, it's 1/3 of a mile long and carries an average grade of 12%. It's just one of those hills where you see nearly all cyclists walking their bike up. So yeah, it's basically that kind of hill. In order to keep our results consistent, we use the same hill tester, Justin, for all of our hill tests. We run the test in 2 portions. The first is on throttle only, letting the motor do 100% of the work, where Justin simply steers and observes the performance. The second run, Justin will activate PAS5 and pedal along with the motor to see how the bike compares between those 2 runs.
Okay, we're out on Hellhole, and I'm very excited to be testing the new Rad Power Bikes Radster Trail. Now, this is a 750 watt rear hub motor, and Rad has stuck to the 750 watts on the max, but they've increased the torque to 100 newton meters, so we're gonna see how it goes. So right now we're at 10 miles an hour through the steepest section, kind of holding solid at 10, down to 9. You can see it is kind of just keeping that 750 watt output kind of maximum right there. Motor noise is very impressive, very quiet. Can hear it a little bit, but not much. I actually have a hard time distinguishing between the motor and the tires. So 11 miles an hour. I'll let you listen to those motors through this last steep, punchy section here. So yeah, you notice as we climbed, you could almost barely hear the motor. As we picked up speed, you could hear it a little bit more, but very impressed on the motor noise. Climbing capabilities dropped to 9 miles per hour. So this, I have a feeling this is gonna be a decent, I don't know, it feels really solid on throttle. We'll have to, check the tape to see how it compares to the Rad Rover and some other past Rads, but I do think that extra torque is gonna help these out. So let's go see the results. Okay, we're back out now on the pedal test with the Radster. Now, one thing that's a pretty big difference is this one has a torque sensor. So we're gonna see how it goes. So far, feeling pretty good. I'm not pedaling very hard at all. Down to 14 miles per hour, 13 through that section, 12. Shifted once is all so far. Down to 11. Torque sensor feels very smooth and controlled. Definitely has more of a natural riding feel as I'm climbing the hill. As you can tell, I'm not breathing hard. I'll let you listen to this section. See, it held about 12, 13 miles an hour there. Still very natural feeling on that torque sensor. Downshifted once. Shifted very smoothly. And overall, I can say this is it's a pretty easy hill climb. Yes, with the torque sensor, you're gonna have to push a little bit, but not very much. So I think this is gonna be a pretty good result. Let's go check the tape.
Okay, so as you saw, on the first run using throttle only, the Radster made it up Hellhole in just 1 minute and 33 seconds with an average speed of 11.7 miles an hour. On the second run, when putting some leg muscle into the mix along with PAS5, the Radster Trail made it up Hellhole again, and this time in 1 minute 16 seconds with an average speed of 14.3 miles an hour. Both of those results represent all-time best for any Rad bike we've ever received since Justin's been the sole hill tester. And bottom line, these numbers show the 750 watt motor paired with its 100 newton meters of torque were more than enough to climb even the meanest hills here in southern Utah. So if you're looking to use the Radster Trail in an area with some beastly hills, you can count on the Radster to get the job done. In our final ride, let's take a look at how the Radster Trail rides and feels. We'll go over the riding position, the overall fit, the tires, and how the motor feels when you're pedaling it. Then we'll head back in here and wrap this up. All right, out here on the Radster Trail, and this is a Well, the trail version of the Radster. There's also a road version, but this trail version has some differences. It's got a BMX style handlebar up here, and the riding position I'd say is upright, however not as upright as the road version. It's got a little bit of a slightly more aggressive posture, and there's no adjustability in the handlebars as far as height goes with the stem, but you can loosen the bolts on the clamp for the handlebars and tilt them either away from yourself or toward yourself and get a fit that works best for you. The seat post is adjustable with almost 9 inches of adjustability, and when you pair that to the tilt of the handlebars, you can really find a fit that works best for you. Uh-oh, looks like we might have had an accident today at the mountain bike park. But the bike does have suspension. Oh, and back on the sizing, Rad Power Bikes says this will fit riders between 5'7" and 6'4". I'm kind of right in the middle of that at 5'11", and to me the bike feels really good with room to go in either direction, whether you're shorter or taller. I think their range is pretty accurate. There is suspension on the bike. Down below we got a Suntour fork that is a hydraulic fork with 80 millimeters of travel, and as you can see, I've been riding on gravel and dirt while I've been talking to you guys, 10-15 miles an hour, and it's been smooth, doing a good job of eating up the bumps in the road. The tires down below are made by Kenda, and they're sized at 27.5 by 3 inches, which is actually not as big as most fat tire bikes go. Usually they're like 4.5, but I think that's a really good balance. They have a light MTB tread pattern, they got really good looking tan sidewalls, and they feel good on and off road. And I think with that 3-inch width, they actually handle better than most 4-inch tire bikes. The motor is 750 watts, and it is a cadence, their new torque sensor, not a cadence sensor. And it actually has 100 newton meters of torque, which is a really good amount, and it gives you a lot to work with for hill climbing or just getting up to speed quicker. The bike very confidently accelerates and climbs hills. Overall, power delivery with a torque sensor feels really good. I mean, I'm cruising right now at 18 miles an hour, but if I start pedaling, we get to a higher gear here, I can feel that torque sensor almost immediately matching my effort. If I try a little harder, I can feel it give me a little more. And if I back off, I feel it back off a little bit. So their Rad tuned motor with this torque sensor, I think feels really, really good, and probably one of the most natural feeling ones I've rode to date. So they did a good job with that. All in all, the bike is comfortable, capable, and it's just a fun bike to take around. Everything from running errands around town to hitting a light off-road trail. The Radster Trail has been a good bike, and so let's head back inside and wrap this up. So as you can see, aside from a little tire noise, the overall ride quality of the Radster Trail is very good. And we like the 3-inch tire choice over the more commonly seen 4-inch tire. It feels a bit livelier in turns, but still allows for better overall balance than a thinner road tire. The overall setup from the frame to the fork and tires means you can enjoy some off-roading so long as the path isn't really technical. Things like light dirt trails around the campground or recreational areas. Just don't confuse the suspension, fork, and tires to mean you can bomb down hardcore mountain bike trails. But I think you probably already know that. One thing I didn't go over earlier with the LCD display is the key fob, which, as you can guess, is a proximity lock and just an added layer of security for your e-bike. Simply tap the fob near the LCD display when you power on the bike and you're good to go. But remember, while the key fob unlocks the motor, in theory, someone could still hop on the bike, pedal away with no help from the motor. So keep that in mind and keep using a bike lock. I really like how Rad balanced some practical commuter perks into this bike beyond what we normally see. Sure, lots of bikes have rear racks, but the Radster comes with turn signals, which is a very nice added feature, especially if you're in traffic every day. All right, so you might be noticing a theme here, and that's just the overwhelming versatility of the Radster Trail. It just shows from front to back. Sometimes it can be a little challenging to sum up an e-bike in just a few thoughts, but it's not with the Radster Trail. I feel like the crew over at Rad Power knew exactly what they were going for, and it shows. The newly improved 750 watt motor with torque sensor and 100 newton meters of torque took us a crazy 75 miles over the course of 7 hours. It's one of the best hill climbers from the brand yet, and still it feels easy to control. Not to mention the choice of 3-inch over 4-inch tires, the full commuter perks including turn signals, and even the Safe Shield battery tech. The Radster Trail felt like a refreshed take on a fat tire e-bike, and we think it's one that many people will enjoy. With all that praise, we still found a little room for improvement, and if I'm being honest, it's a bit nitpicky. The current 2-amp charger, while effective, is just slow, and we'd love to see at least a 3-amp charger. It's a solid upgrade that riders who commute daily and have to charge at work, we think will like, and we don't think it's going to raise prices much, if at all. And while the front fender is a nice touch, I don't think it matches the personality of the bike, as it's more of a nod to an EMTB style mud fender, and we'd like to see a full front fender that we think most riders will appreciate more in practicality terms. See what I mean? These are really small complaints. Bottom line, a cornerstone of the Radster Trail is versatility. It's a bike that seems built to be ridden for a variety of different ways. I genuinely enjoyed my time on the Radster Trail, and I see this bike having a place in many garages. It fits so many needs. Whether you want to commute to the city or hit some mild trails on the weekends, the Radster Trail has you covered. All right, folks, that's a wrap for today on the Radster Trail. And if you're still here watching, hopefully I can convince you to like and subscribe before you go so we can keep these lights on and keep these reviews coming. We'll see you next time.